live on my YouTube stream. And let's see if we are. We'll wait for this to populate a little bit and see if people come in. And I will tweet it. Let me double check here. Boom. Yeah, there we are.
So this live streams on the Twitter feed as well?
Not on mine. It looks like it has been paired with yours. Let me see if it's...
Yeah.
Yeah, it is indeed. Awesome. It's paired with yours.
Good.
We got... Oh, hey. What's up, man? We got some people already here. All right. And this is going to be on my YouTube channel permanently, so we can go ahead and start, and everyone else will watch when they watch.
They will trickle in, right?
Yeah, they'll trickle in, and we'll allow... can you see the comments that are being... where it says "you buck"? Can you see that?
Yes. Minnesota Black Robe Regiment.
Yes, that's him. All right. People can ask questions if they'd like as we go here. Okay. I'll give you a proper introduction. I'll kind of let you do that. Ancestral Vril out of... I don't know if I'm allowed to say where you're out of, but I'll let you introduce yourself and where you're from, if you want to say so, and about the newsletter you're going to be doing, and kind of what you do on your Twitter feed.
Yes. Well, I'm just a regular guy from the Netherlands. So since the Corona, crisis hoax, I don't think I'm allowed to say that, but I've opened my eyes about certain things. I'm not a special kind of guy. I just see things and just write about it. And I think most people just lack the courage to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Because every time I say what I write about to friends or family, they say, "Well, you're so brave. You can write about that." But I think it's just normal. It's what everyone should be conscious about the effects of pornography, politics, Corona, you name it, even religion.
How was the coronavirus? We'll call it the coof from here on out.
Yeah,
So I don't...
let's call it the coof.
Yeah, so I don't get pulled in the middle of this. How was the coof handled over there in Holland?
Terribly,
Okay.
tyrannical,
Okay.
and unnecessary. I think the Netherlands was one of the first to install the most tyrannical measures to implement. I think we were kind of a testing ground in terms of severity of the measurements. So yeah, it's only been 2 months or 3 months now we are out of lockdown. So I have no idea where it is going to take us, but they've already implemented some stuff about the monkeypox, and they're already preparing us for digital ID. They're still denying it.
Mm-hmm.
Or we call it the Tweede Kamer. It's like the Senate or something. So there's only like one political party that really talks about it, but so far we're still in the dark about it.
Okay, interesting. It's funny. I have a few friends that are in Holland, and between them and now meeting you, every person I know from there is basically on our side of this. Maybe it's just because it's my circle of friends, and I just don't happen to be friends with blue pill types as much. But I was happily surprised they were very much not getting the jab as much as apparently it's been forced more so there even than it has here. Is that your take too?
Yes. If we should believe the government, 95% has been vaccinated at least once.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, I think more than half is already awoken to the fact that they've been scammed.
Mm-hmm.
but they still got the poison in them. So you can't take it out.
Mm-hmm. Right. 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 Well, let's get into this topic of the day. You had a wonderful thread, a Twitter thread, and I read it many times, and it was good. It was good. It was based, as the kids these days say, and
Thank you.
it started with, I guess we can call it, the title of the thread was "How Sexual Freedom Destroyed Germany in 1919 through 1933: Beastiality, Sex Changes, Free Love, and More. Say hello to the Weimar Republic." And you say it's important to understand what happened in Weimar Germany to fully grasp what they have in store for us now. Witness the architects of our sexual liberation and the depravity of Germany. Just for those watching who might hear these terms and know basically what Weimar Germany was, can you kind of get into that just to lay some groundwork to make sure everyone is on the same page here of the timeline and kind of what was going on between, well, I'll let you do it, after World War One.
Yes. Yeah, the Weimar Republic. I wrote about purely about the severe sexual perversions, what the consequences were for that, for especially the German people. It was the purpose of the thread was to show the parallels of the Weimar Republic with our times. So not as much about the political stuff. So, but it started with the First World War and the consequences of that well, time period. And I think that Germany got the, how do you say this, the short stick, the short end of the deal.
Mm-hmm.
They got completely eviscerated with the Treaty of Versailles.
Mm-hmm.
And well, what follows was is also the crash of Wall Street, which turned the regular people into prostitutes, even
Mm-hmm.
men, children, women. And I think we can see a lot of parallels with today. That, for example, pornography and
Mm-hmm.
OnlyFans, the destruction of the family, traditional values, they are all being destroyed. And the same thing happened in Weimar Republic. So uh, many schools don't teach this subject.
Right.
Well, because of the context it gives to the Second World War. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
most people just think, well, the National Socialist government, they were purely evil and they did it for no reason at all.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's not true. I mean, I'm not a Nazi or something. I don't even
Right.
think the word applies to anyone. I think it's a word to LARP
Yeah.
uh, as an evil person, because the National Socialists never referred to themselves as Nazis. And uh, educating people about this time period is crucial to understand uh, also what happened after World War II with the sexual revolution and the advent of internet pornography, and how we have been, well, subjugated ever since by our lovely rulers we cannot name.
Mm-hmm. And you mean, but when you say we, obviously people know that you're in Holland. You mean the West, largely, basically.
Um, yes, yes.
Okay.
But to be clear, what do you mean with the West?
Just like first world Western nations, the United States, Germany, Holland, all of Europe, us, basically.
Yeah, yeah. I'm asking because the West or white people is easily subverted as an identity, and I
Oh,
think that,
right.
yeah, I think
I,
that's
I,
dangerous. You know.
yeah. So do I. Yeah, yeah. And of course, people that don't like what we're saying are going to use that as well. That is not what I
Exactly.
mean. Um,
Yeah.
let's talk about uh, kind of. Well, I mean, we'll get into the weeds here about what the culture was like then, and then talk about also Magnus Hirschfeld, because that is a name I was not familiar with, and so I suspect a lot of people listening and watching aren't either. But kind of the culture and what was going on here, and what type of environment led to someone like Magnus Hirschfeld actually being able to do what he did?
Well, yeah, most actions start with good intentions, right?
Hmm.
And I think Magnus Hirschfeld, he was a um, well, how do you say it? He was an advocate for gay and transgender rights, and he was also a doctor or a supervisor at the Institute of Sexual Research, which was pretty new and novel in that time. Um, they wanted to, uh, homosexuality, transgenderism was labeled as a mental illness, and he wanted to change that. He wanted to normalize what are, well, objectively sexual perversions in a Western society. And, well, my personal take is I don't think he, personally wanted to subvert Western people. Maybe he did, I don't know. But he was a gay man himself. And I think he projected a lot of his inner feelings, his guilt,
Hmm.
onto, well, just normal people. It's he had this. I think he had this inner guilt in him to create this Institute of Sexual Research to normalize his own behavior,
Hmm.
and I think he went really far into his own ideology. I mean, he supervised the first sex change. I mean, he did not perform it himself,
Uh-huh.
but he was absolutely an advocate for it.
And of course, this people use the slippery slope argument now, and will argue against it, like, oh, come on. And if you, certainly in the United States over the last 30 years, I'd say, if you can't look at what's gone on with these topics and see the slippery slope, then I don't think you're looking at it correctly. But talk about that. And you wouldn't think certainly the slippery slope could have started in the 1920s, but maybe so.
Well, yeah, yeah, maybe so, because I think the modern age started at the first. I think the beginning of the 21st century. No, the 20th century, with the Fed, the First World War, the end of monarchy, the end of European colonies, and really centralizing their power. And they did this. Well, I think the Weimar Republic was a microcosm,
Yeah.
a benchmark for the sexual revolution, and the sexual revolution was a benchmark for, the advent of internet pornography and the high speed access you have to all these sexual perversions. And I think that I think the early 90s and the 2000s were, a testing ground for what we have now. The hyper fast social media content of triggering young men and even women into these degenerate sexual fetishes, because I've seen it in so many young men that they start with social media and they see some hot girl or whatever, and then they get triggered into internet pornography, because the end consequence of that is to isolate the man and destroy the family unit.
Do you think there's a purpose also to weaken the general society at large?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Um, I'm going to keep going through this Twitter thread because it's so good. Good morning, Fig Newton. I like that spelling too.
Good
Uh,
morning.
yes, but if it's science, then it must be true, right? Again, something that it seems like we've been conditioned. I suppose, just like here over the last few years, there where you're at, we were told to trust the science and that whatever they're telling us is science. Did you guys? I assume you heard the same thing over and over again. This propaganda.
Yes, absolutely. We've been conditioned that science um, is the absolute truth of humanity because you can measure it. It's empirical data. You can see it, you can hear it, you can feel it. So if it sends data, it must be true, right? So if it's tangible, it must be true. But what about ideas or potential or time itself? I mean, we can prove those things with mere touch or our senses.
Hmm.
So I think philosophically, we have been so bankrupt by the public educational system that just we as regular people can't even think anymore when the science says something. Because if you
Right.
say science says it, you shut out you shut down the whole conversation, because if science is on my side, you are wrong.
Hmm. And now, of course, no one looks at who's funding which research and the big money behind some of this quote unquote science, and the ease at which certain things can be, let's say, maneuvered to show a certain result that the people funding things want that result, of course. And again, I think that's something a lot more people are understanding over the last few years, certainly. Uh, Wilhelm Reich, a pupil of Freud, believed it in sexual repression. It withheld a political revolution. Can we talk? Another person I was not totally familiar with. Can we talk about this gentleman?
Oh yes, absolutely. He wrote the book of the mass psychology of fascism, if I recall correctly, and he theorized that. I think he really believed that fascism was a consequence of not getting your rocks off, so to say.
Okay.
And well, well, at first I think that that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I said it in a thread as well, but actually it makes sense, because if you do not engage in sterile activities like masturbation and pornography, you become a purposeful being, a being of logos, reason and rationality, and sexual perversions destroy that. So I think that the fascists had a reaction to the perversions of their time. So
Mm,
in that context, it's perfectly rational. I don't condone all their actions. I don't
right.
even know about them all, but it's from an outsider's perspective. It's so obvious. I mean, if you go through with this absolutely dehumanizing policy in Weimar Republic, for example,
Hmm.
then there's going to be a reaction. It's that simple. It doesn't matter if it's from the fascists or from Orthodox Christians like ourselves. I mean, there is good and evil in the world, and
Hmm.
evil cannot um, win human history, and people are gonna stand up to it. And Wilhelm Reich, he um, just like Hirschfeld, I think he truly believed in what he said. He wasn't just a puppet or, well, just a CIA asset,
Right.
but he truly believed that orgasms were the the fix for every political problem, and especially the right wing people, because we are getting too rational, and we must be stopped with orgasms,
and,
supposedly.
and so much so that there's this machine apparently that he created.
Yeah, yeah. The
Orgo
orgastic.
energy accumulator.
Yes, in Woody Allen's words, the orgasmatron.
Right. Yeah. There you go. And that's real. He actually did create this or something.
Yes, he really did. It was not a well, I compared it to a coon box
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
where a single man lives in his dirty apartment and jacks off to pornography. But I think he created something way more sophisticated, and I think he had a something, well, a more science type of instrument in mind, because that is proof for why he truly believed in what he did. And well, the end result is that you can have better orgasms. which supposedly should have, fixed all our problems. But that's
Right.
not true.
No, obviously not. And then I guess the streets of Berlin at the time, and this is during the 20s, became just basically a playground of degenerate stuff. Basically, is that what you're saying in this thread? It says that it was the mecca for man's darkest desires. If you want it, you could find it, including decapitated geese for pleasure.
Yes. Don't we all want that? I mean,
Right.
I
And
mean,
so, go ahead.
oh,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. Oh, yeah, thanks. Well, supposedly you can find everything 100 years ago, um, if your sexual desires wanted it. I mean, decapitated geese. Uh, I think, well, I cannot quote exactly where I found it, but to paraphrase it, you could cut the neck of a goose
Mm-hmm.
and insert your,
Mm.
well, your genitals inside it and have the most orgasmic experience. But you can also eat it after. So they had gastronomy as well. Um, yeah, this might be shocking. I know.
Yeah. Yeah. No
This,
kidding.
thi- so yeah, this is not normal. This is not normal. And the reason I wrote that is they are gonna normalize this behavior as well,
Yeah.
and that's why I wrote about the slippery slope, because it's real.
Yeah. Yeah. And I suppose prostitution, uh, as you put it, came in all flavors at the time as well. And it's funny because you being from Holland, people think when they think, oh, Dutch or Holland, you think of the red light district, and that, I suppose it's a similar thing. But I don't even know if the red light district over there is as crazy sounding as Berlin is painted here in this Twitter thread.
Yeah. Well, the good news is they want to shut down the red light district.
Oh, they
Uh,
do.
yeah. So there's a white pill for us guys. I think we're gonna win this, but um, that aside, uh, you can never know what truly happens behind the scenes. You can walk past the mirrors, the glass of the red light district, and see the
Yeah.
woman dancing. But does it really? Is that the only thing that happens there? I don't think so. I also wrote a thread about the sex trafficking and the link to pornography
Hmm.
with the Ukraine and
Oh,
Israel.
right.
And yeah, I left a part out on Amsterdam that could have been a good part, but uh, I think that, well, it's not my opinion, but most of the prostitutes are prostitutes from from Eastern Europe, and they
Oh.
certainly look like it.
Hmm.
And I'm sure child trafficking is involved,
Hmm.
and that has a lot of parallels with the Weimar Republic.
Hmm. Yeah, there was an issue in Berlin, I suppose, with unfortunately, I almost hate saying this, but with children as well. Correct?
Yes, yes, absolutely. They even went as far to, um, well, prescribe children to take away your medical issues.
Hmm.
I mean, this kind of sick stuff went on, and you could even order kids like a pizza.
Hmm.
Um,
Yes. Were you cleverly making an analogy with the pizza comment from?
uh,
I
I'm
don't know
not
if
sure what you're referring to.
there's some emails from a former presidential candidate here in the United States, and pizza was the terminology that apparently was being used for this exact uh, action. We'll say.
Oh, well, now that you say, it brought me to Pizzagate.
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah, yeah, all right. Yeah, but it's a parallel. I mean,
Yes.
the same stuff is happening over and over again, because evil is not subjective, and good isn't either. I mean, there is real good and evil,
Yes.
and they don't make this stuff up. every time we let it happen, it happens.
Yes, and there's been an attempt over the decades to normalize evil by basically saying that it's relative and that it is subjective and you can't judge my truth and I have your truth, that stuff. I assume you see the same thing over there.
Yeah, yeah, and especially in personal conversations, and well, people from the left especially, and it even goes as far to conservative right wing that,
Mhm.
well, I believe we shouldn't watch pornography, but who am I to say
Mhm.
what what others should do? And I think this is a sickness also in politics, that we live in a relative society that we cannot even decide what is true or not. While at the same time, the global elite is deciding for us what we have to do, because might makes right in their eyes.
Mhm. Yes, indeed. I want to kind of continue to go through this thread, and obviously, I want the people listening and watching this to think about as we read this where we're at now in society,
Yeah,
across Europe and certainly the United States. Cross dressing was the rage back then. Women dress as men, men dress as women. It's all in the name of tolerance. Of course, Marlene Dietrich was an icon of the Weimar period, famous for her unhinged affairs with men and women. After Weimar, she became a Hollywood star and contributed to the normalization of gay relations between women. Tourists from London, Paris, and the United States visited Berlin for its sexual freedom. As voyeurs, homosexuals, Scandinavians, and Russians also came to satisfy their darkest appetites in Berlin's nightlife. So again, just kind of the push for open degeneracy across the society there. Does it ever feel like that to you with the red light area in Holland? And does it feel like that's just a magnet for people like me from the United States that I've got to go there to try this and this and this? Does it feel like that there?
yes, absolutely. It's the same thing happening over again. Um, Nobody's going to visit the small towns where I live. They all want to see the sexual perversions, and it happened in Weimar Republic as well. But to be fair, our times are different. So we live in a Weimar Republic on a global level,
Yes.
and I think Amsterdam is just the capital of tolerance and veganism and well, atheism as well.
Oh, is it
Because
really?
yeah, because we Dutch people are iconoclast. They hate well, not every Dutch person hates Catholics, but the Dutch people in general, they had a well, troublesome history with the Catholics because of the Spanish war and occupiers, and I think that still rings to till today. That, for example, the East Indies company was, well, the first entrepreneurial enterprise in world history, and they were mainly Protestant. So, uh, well, I'm not an expert on the subject, but
Hmm.
I mean, it laid the groundwork for what we see today in the Netherlands, uh, because we are supposedly more enlightened than those stupid Catholics,
Hmm.
because we have this technology, this money coming in, these colonies, and well, that set the stage for the degeneracy in Amsterdam. I mean, if there's no Catholic Church, no central point to get your morality from, then everything becomes subjective.
Hmm.
And we still, I'm a child of this relative history. I mean, this
Hmm.
relative take on what we should do. Uh, the the religion of tolerance.
Yes. Is there a rightward swinging? Does it feel like there's a rightward momentum as far as a pushback on some of this culture there?
Yes, yes, certainly. But do you mean politically?
Yeah, I would say politically. Here, for instance, I assume you follow. uh, the United States political scene somewhat. Like, for instance, in Florida, where we have Ron DeSantis ruling basically like a king on the right, and I think that's a good thing. But he's wildly popular. Tucker Carlson, who's a right wing news personality here in the U.S., is by far the most popular news personality on cable TV by far, and he crushes the left wing. In terms of viewership. In fact, he's the biggest draw even with Democrats, which is crazy. But all of that being said, it feels like if just talking to regular people on the street here, if we get into politics, there's a lot of normal people that are saying, I can't take this crap. For instance, it's Pride Month here in the United States. I don't know if that's a global, I might as well be global at this point,
It's a global religion.
of course. And so even normal people are like, okay, enough kind of thing. Does it feel like there's a pushback being generated in Holland as well?
Yes, the consciousness is rising, but in terms of physical movements or actions, not so much. We
Okay.
only have, yeah, we have a party system, not like the USA where you have Republicans and Democrats, but a lot of parties, a lot of people can just start a party and get votes and be elected for government. Um, but all these parties are, well, they are paid by Klaus Schwab. I mean, the
Oh, okay.
the big guys. I think
Yeah.
I can name them all, but there's only one party, and uh, well, this is shout out to them, Forum for Democratie. They are the only party that really said something about the Corona measures. I mean, the measures
Mm-hmm.
about. Uh, well, what's more relevant for our talk is how the national television grooms our young children with
Yes.
the LGBT propaganda. I mean, this is the only physical movement that is happening. But when you ask just a regular person at work or on the street, they all know what's happening, but nobody is brave enough to say something because they can lose their job, they can lose their family, their friends. I've seen it over and over again. Even I lost some friends. Um, so it's perfectly normal for people to keep quiet about it. And my account is the whole reason
Mm-hmm.
I do it, because nobody stands up and says anything. Well, a few do, but it's not enough.
Mm-hmm. Are there celebrities types in Holland? I don't know, maybe TV or just media personalities that are speaking out against it that get some popularity, or is the media there by and large just regime propaganda?
Yeah, it's mostly just regime propaganda, like you said. We have the NPO, and they broadcasted 2 years ago, I think, where they groom children into thinking um, public nudity is normal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, okay, I'm not saying nudity is wrong inherently. I mean, you can't have real intimacy with your wife or husband without being naked, right? And but they want to make it seem like that. And this NPO broadcasting station, which is, by the way, funded by me and just normal people with our tax money, and they showed five naked adults in front of I think 20 children, in and they were like 10 to 12 years old, and they were allowed to ask the naked adults about their bodies and their sexual uh, history or whatever.
My gosh.
But yeah, but this is a example of this propaganda,
Mm-hmm.
and we're paying for it. I mean, there is going to be a reaction, and I'm not sure what it's going to be, but they can't go on like this.
All right, I want to get back through this to this Twitter thread too, so I can get through it. It's so good. Although illegal, there was a booming pornography industry, soaring demand for porn with celebrity lookalikes. The cheap stuff could be bought at your regular kiosks. Of course, we've got updates on that with the internet. There was also a great demand for gruesome pictures of homicides, especially for young, pretty women. This was kind of heartbreaking to read. And at the same time, maybe it was heartbreaking because it doesn't seem that we're that far off from that now.
Yes, especially the art,
Mm-hmm.
um, because art is a medium to either demoralize or inspire people.
Mm-hmm.
And well, for that time, it was novel, and it was also illegal. So pornography was not this widespread promoted material like we have today, because in those terms we have it worse than our ancestors did.
Yeah, certainly. So
But
it must was it an underground thing almost where you could go to Berlin and kind of figure out where to get it and where to go, that type of thing?
yes, yes, it was widely available, but nobody talked about it. It was like a drugs. Well, it
Okay.
is like a drugs,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but it was also not enforced by the local government or police forces, because they knew what was going on. But well, what you're gonna do about it when millions of copies of disgusting pornography and art comes into your country? Like, I mean, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, and especially if the elites are allowing it, at some point there's control and it's being allowed on purpose basically.
Yeah.
The Germans were guinea pigs in a massive social experiment conducted by Marxists. George Lukács called for a culture of pessimism and a world abandoned by God. Uh, it sounds like he got it.
Well, he certainly did. I mean, we're still living in his vision, where where we still live in a society where we are separated from the church. Now, I don't think the church should be solely responsible for every state affair. I
Hmm.
mean, the greatest example I can give is the Byzantine eagle with the two
Hmm.
heads. I mean, the state and church should um, work together, but we don't have that anymore. And George Lukács succeeded in, well, creating that world where nobody believes in God. Um, you can do what you want. Well, if it's in the confines of your own home, but we don't see that anymore, because they're gonna openly march on the streets um, this coming month, showing what they do inside their homes. So, and we both know what kind of month that is. So we don't, you know.
And to continue, and Willy Munzenberg, we must organize the intellectuals and use them to make Western civilization stink. Only then, after they have corrupted all its values and made life impossible, can we impose the dictatorship of the proletariat.
Yes, where have we seen that before? Where
Hmm.
intellectuals, I mean the science people, the science people, man,
Yes.
they think for us. I mean, if they say it, it must be true.
Hmm.
And they did exactly the same thing back then. And now we see these, well, to show parallels, the new atheist movement,
Hmm.
uh, Richard Dawkins and Christopher Hitchens and the so-called philosopher Daniel Dennett. Oh, and not to forget Sam Harris, of course.
Hmm.
They all popularized this thinking of, well, we do the thinking. You don't think because we have science, and the same thing happened back then. It's to corrupt certain individuals to gain this authority over who has uh, the right to speak, so to say. And
Hmm.
it's definitely not the church.
Are you familiar? One of the hey, what's up, Clockwork? One of the commenters is talking about Antonio Gramsci. Are you familiar with that name?
No.
Okay, okay. I'll get back into this thread. Theory: Weimar was a and this is your words, of course. Weimar was a dress rehearsal or a benchmark for the 60s sexual revolution and our own times. Make of it what you want. But all good times come to an end. The National Socialists swiftly took care of the depravity and went on to burn the books of Hirschfeld and others of the Institute of Sexual Research, excuse me. Thus, the end of Weimar era, and then a new beginning for Germany. Obviously, this it's not a good thing that a nasty person like Hitler rose to power, but I think the point is when you have such degeneracy and such a depravity within the culture, the reaction to it can be brutal at some point. And my hope is, I agree that we do have this degenerate and weak culture. I'm hoping the reaction can be something a little bit holier and
Yeah.
and happier. But I don't know what this leads to here. I don't know how this is going to end up in, say, 20 in the next 20 years. But I certainly see the parallels as far as leading up through the Weimar Republic, and that's why I love this thread so much. And I'll let you talk some more, just the parallels that you see and where things could be headed.
Yeah. Well, like you said, I don't want a violent reaction. I want a peaceful end of this globalist regime. And I think that's we got to do it through raising the conscious of Western people specifically. Obviously for everyone, but I'm saying Western people because they are targeted first with the psychological warfare they have in store for us.
Yes.
And well, I can't really talk about the National Socialist movement because of the censorship.
Right.
And we also have a law in the Netherlands under Article 1 of discrimination that uh, you can be prosecuted for what you say. And if it's discrimination or anti Semitism, you can be jailed. So, uh,
Wow.
yeah, I'm not going to say anything about it because I don't know what I can say,
Sure.
uh, just to be sure. But certainly there is going to be a reaction, and it's already happening. Um, I think Corona, I mean, the coup
Hmm.
was a catalyst for most people to wake up. Uh, I mean, we all have been living too comfortably, and the spiritual life has been chipped away until it's almost non-existent. Even myself, I was a hardcore atheist.
Same here. Me too.
Yeah, you know how it went. That you thought you had the answers to everything,
Yes.
and then you stumble upon some real problems in your life.
Yep.
And like they said, there are no atheists in foxholes.
Right.
So when you're under this heavy fire, I mean, you are gonna believe in God. That's gonna be sure. And I see it in the people around me that the grounds are getting more fertile to sow the word of God, so to say.
You see that
People,
there too?
yes, absolutely. Thank God.
Yeah, that's a white pill. That's good.
Yeah, especially the political party I was mentioning earlier.
Uh-huh.
I went to an event with a friend, and we're both new Christians, and we talked to the conservatives there, and well, my um, prediction was they have this enlightenment philosophy of well, they're still right wing, of course, but liberal in terms of culture.
Yes.
But the problem with that is you can't base your morality on anything if you don't have God.
Right.
I mean, it's impossible. And most of them realize that. And that's a beautiful thing, that without God, everything becomes subjective. It doesn't matter how based or red pilled you are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the ultimate red pill is the Christ pill,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really heading that direction. So, I mean,
What is that
yeah,
political party called that you were talking about?
Forum voor Democratie, FVD.
Okay. I'm going to write this down and do a little research here. This is, I mean, how popular are they?
Um, well, in terms of the general population, I think everyone agrees with them. Literally everyone. I think even the leftist, feminist types believe know what they're saying is true, because the political leader, he is called Thierry Baudet,
Okay.
and he says some. Well, I don't even think it's extreme, but some things about women and the dynamic of men and women, how they should behave, and what the roles are of them in the society in general. But he gets called as a misogynist.
Of course. Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course. What a surprise! I
Right.
mean, this is really shocking. And well, if people see these ridiculous accusations, I mean, the people are
Yes.
going to wake up.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. So I see some of the insanity on TV here in America with the media and political personalities. And as it gets crazier, sometimes I cheer it on because the more absurd it gets, the more people kind of open their eyes to like, wait a second, the emperor has no clothes here. You know, they're telling me that this coof is so deadly and I need to get jabbed, otherwise we're gonna all die. And then I look around and I know people that had it, and then I had it, and then wait a second, this doesn't seem to be what they were telling me. And oh my God, you better be locked down until you get tired of that. And then all of a sudden it's like, you know what? There's more people willing to say that seemed to be a psyop. And I've heard that word a lot more lately from normal people. And it's a white pill, I would say.
Yes, yeah, thank God, absolutely. Um, the coup was necessary.
Yeah. What did
Coup-
Let me ask you something from your perspective. What did the Trump phenomenon, how did that play out as far as the reactions from where you're at, the Trump years?
You mean Donald Trump?
Yeah, because here it was a massive shakeup, of course, and it can a lot of people changed politically, spiritually, the outlook on life, the outlook on government. I would say a lot of people became red pilled as the Trump years played out here in the states. A lot of boomer types, like my parents, started to see some things, specifically the way that media treated him, but started to see some things that they didn't quite think of before the Trump moment happened. Did that play out at all in Holland?
Oh yeah, uh, the the political party I mentioned um, gained traction parallel to Donald Trump.
Okay.
So yeah, not in terms of size or well, his victory, but it certainly opened the eyes of a lot of people, and also mine. I mean, I was still in college, and this friend of mine, I wasn't politically aware at all. Well, this is a story like how people are awakened to the well, insanity. I
Hmm.
mean, this well, former friend now, he said, "Yeah, have you heard about Donald Trump? He wanted to make a wall, and that wall is racist." Um, well, yeah, sure, buddy, but I'm gonna research this myself. And well, you know how it goes. You enter a rabbit hole,
Mm.
and that rabbit hole got me to Christianity. So, and I think it's with a lot of people go to the same stuff.
Hmm.
So my story is not unique at all.
No, but that's interesting to hear. And so, you weren't political at all prior to this? You're just kind of a normal person, didn't really care about politics. Must be. I mean, it's sometimes I'm jealous of people like that. It must be nice, but that was you.
Now, but I think I can speak for both of us that we are not just normal people,
True.
you
True.
know, because even as a child, I've been thinking about being going into the mainstream, just to trigger people.
Hmm.
But well, eventually you become mature and shape your worldview, and going into the mainstream, never left. I mean, being a Christian is considered radical extremist,
Isn't
especially
that?
if you,
Yeah.
yeah, especially if you're a Catholic or an Orthodox.
Hmm. There's a question in the chat. Does your guest see the Overton window shifting right, or is it still moving to a leftwards apex?
Uh, I think that's a good question, um, because I don't. Well, you still have this paradigm of left and right when you ask this question,
Yeah.
um, but I don't think it's any of those answers. I think there's a third way coming up, and most people see that democracy doesn't work
Mm.
because last time we had elections, not a national selection elections, but some kind of elections, and the show up rate or whatever it's called was like 20%. So nobody believes in democracy anymore. But to answer your question directly, I think it's right wing, if you want to call it that way. But I don't like to call it that way because when when you are labeled right wing, you lose all kinds of privileges and rights, even the right to speak.
Yeah.
So I think we should move away from that.
That's interesting. My thoughts on it are, I think culturally, as the elites push leftwards, and especially the stuff we've been talking about, as happened in the Weimar Republic, as the elites push leftward, I think at a grassroots level, at a populist level, I think there's a, a reaction, a natural instinct to push back to the right a little bit, and so. Uh, I think that's what we're seeing. We certainly saw it over the coup years in the United States with the mass migration from blue states to red states. And it happened at one point, California, there were so many people leaving California, you could not find a U-Haul truck, a moving truck. It was literally, they were literally all gone. And so that to me is a white pill. That's a good sign. And some of the people here in Texas, you would hear this, oh my God, all these Californians are moving here. They're going to turn the state purple and then blue. And it's not happening. And I certainly think in the elections coming up, the midterms, it's not going to be purple or blue here in Texas. I suspect it's going to be deep red because all of those people that were coming here are sick of what they were experiencing in states like California and New York. That's my hope. We shall see. But in that sense, I think there's a rightward push among the general population. Of course, the establishment, the regime propaganda is getting further left, but there's this saying here, go woke, go broke. We're seeing that a little bit too. And I think that's a good thing. Although I still can't, for Pride Month, why NASCAR had to had to put out ads for Pride Month. Maybe we'll see go woke, go broke then. I suspect they had to know generally their crowd wasn't big into Pride Month, but we shall see. Um,
I, I thought, I don't want to interrupt you, but I thought
no, please.
NASCAR was hyper masculine.
It's basically if the NASCAR crowd in my from where I see it would be the Trump voting crowd. And so they just recently did a Pride Month thing in NASCAR of all things. It seems strange to me. We shall see how that gets pushed back in reaction. Um, I want to ask more stuff about what's specifically going on in Holland and then kind of contrast it or compare it to where I'm at in Texas. Um, One of the things I was disappointed in over the COOF years was the willingness of normal people to basically become agents of the state for free. In other words, if we were only locked down in Texas for 6 weeks, but during that 6 weeks, there was people that would have gatherings or get-togethers at their house just to see friends, and you would see instances of neighbors calling the cops, basically working for the state for free. Oh my God, there's people over there, go break that party up. Or you would hear the demands, put your damn mask on, that kind of thing. Was that ubiquitous? Did you see that a lot in Holland?
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question about it. Um, we even have a term for it. It's called NSB'er, and that's called you are working with the Nazis. So
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Okay.
well, they don't refer to themselves as that, but
Right.
the spirit is was still there. You heard it all the time. Oh, party is broken up because somebody snitched on them.
Yes.
Um, I mean, the police have no way of knowing unless somebody snitches. But I think it's also important to know and to mention why people do it. I mean, why would they snitch their own neighbors? I mean,
Hmm.
they could be your friends, right? Well, I think it's because the government has us and the corporations have us so addicted to our desires for pleasure. Because if you have no God, your God is travel, going out to nice restaurants or the club or uh, whatever it is, something
Hmm.
degenerate.
Hmm.
So they took that away. And when some people break the rules, they only gonna prolong the pandemic. And if they do that, then they're gonna prolong their misery,
Hmm.
their their lockdown in their own homes, which is actually self-imposed.
Yes.
Um, so that is their reason for snitching out on others because pleasures are more important than your fellow human beings.
Hmm.
And
That's done by design, in my opinion.
yes, yes, absolutely.
Someone says, I suspect this is to you, dude. You should talk about the protests in Amsterdam and the police involvement.
Oh yeah.
What is that reference to?
Well, with the coup, we had demonstrations um, demonstrating the measures imposed by the government.
Okay.
So it's important to note what kind of people were these. These were just normal boomer
Hmm.
type people,
Hmm.
just old veterans. I mean, ah, they're not the based youth, certainly not. But they were based enough to stand up to this tyranny, and you can see pictures of police horsemen trampling old men and beating them up with sticks and releasing the dogs on them. I mean, this is crazy. You can't do this. They were just old boomers doing nothing. But apparently, uh, they broke the law. So their actions, the police's actions, were justified because they were, um, well, they were creating chaos.
Hmm.
So they say.
Right.
The
Right.
mainstream media said that.
Right. Are there here when there's gatherings like that? I assume you saw the one on January 6th that happened. There's there's always agents of the state, CIA, FBI, DOJ, that infiltrate these groups and kind of create this chaos to make it look like it's the boomer right wingers doing this violence and chaos. Is there an element of that happens in Holland as well, where it kind of people have infiltrated these movements and then they're the ones that creating the chaos?
Oh yeah, yeah. Good that you mention it. The, in the US, you call them fats, right?
Feds, correct? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we call them Romeos.
Okay. Yes. Someone wrote
Yeah,
that in the comments just
yeah,
now.
great. And they are the Dutch fats. And what they do is, you can even see a clip on YouTube on it, that they jump out of a bus with sometimes 5 or 7 of them. They're all hyped up, always in jeans and messed up with helmets. And what they do is, uh, they beat up old people.
Hmm.
They even well, how do you say it? They drive with the bus against a lady, and afterward they beat her up. I mean, this is the kind of stuff they do. But
Hmm.
this is, I think, this is something everyone sees. The more insidious types, they mingle in the crowd and instigate, and you don't see them on the pictures.
Right.
Uh, yeah, for example, in Rotterdam, there was something about a lockdown coming, and what the Romeos did, the Feds, is lay down bricks on the streets.
Yes. Same here. Yes.
Yeah, I think the Romeos take over the tactics of Feds.
Yeah.
I think it's that clear. So then they have a reason to blame the well, the normal people, just the
Yes.
general population. Like, you are the bad guys, and now we have to really insert this martial law. It's because of you,
Hmm.
not not of the feds, of course.
That yeah, exactly right. That's it. So the brick tactic, the same thing they do here during the what we affectionately call the Summer of Love, was in 2020 when you had the Black Lives Matter and Antifa rioting and burning various cities across the United States. Was there'd be this magical pile of perfectly stacked bricks just about on the edge of the area where there would be rioting, just magically placed there. Um, and so we saw that a lot. They're doing the same thing there, then, huh?
Yeah, how convenient.
Yes, it is. Uh, did you guys see, or maybe even experience yourself in Holland? Were there BLM riots and Antifa riots during 2020 as there were in America?
Yeah, it's
Maybe.
it was hilarious. I mean, Black Lives Matter is an uh, American. I mean, can I say his name?
Yes.
George Soros
Uh
funded
huh.
organization.
Yeah.
Um, well, I think in America they are more violent, but in the Netherlands they were LARPing
Yeah.
as
Okay.
Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
So I lived in the center, and I looked out of my window, and I saw all these people with cardboard signs. Black Lives Matter. White silence is violence. But it was all in English. So this
Oh,
yeah, it stinked. And the funny thing was, they were all white people. I mean, I don't want to say white, but they certainly were not of African heritage. Maybe some were, but yeah, it felt very orchestrated. It was certainly not grassroots.
gotcha. Yeah, we call that astroturfing here. The when they want to
Yeah,
make it look grassroots and it's fake. This is an interesting. William Leonard, what's up, man? Glad you're doing this interview. I made a little discovery recently, and this is very interesting, specifically based on what we've been talking about today. All of the modern architecture we are seeing in cities these days is heavily influenced by Weimar Bauhaus design. I'll be. Did you know this? Ancestral Vril?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
I wrote a thread about it.
Oh, well, well, talk about any of that if you'd like to. I need to read all of your threads here before I get you on like this. Uh, yeah, go into that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Walter Gropius, he founded, or at least formulated, the Bauhaus design. And the Bauhaus design was a um, projection of their hate for classical architecture.
I'll be damned.
Yes, and in his own words, he hated, well, to paraphrase him, he hated traditional family homes. And um, he wanted to design a type of city um, where you where you can live comfortably, but without the responsibility of having a family.
Oh.
You can see it in the white city of Tel Aviv, for example. I mean, look up some pictures. Every building is a dirty white block apartment.
Mm-hmm.
So flat roof, which means
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna leak. The maintenance is expensive, and it's designed to keep people isolated, but just close enough to other people to make, well, sex happen with strangers or
Mm-hmm.
people you meet on dating apps. And they also remove your connection to the ground. So it's certainly in the spirit of you will own nothing and be happy.
I was just thinking of that. Yeah. It's the perfect architecture for this the World Economic Forum stuff that we're being made aware of at this point.
Yeah, yeah. So they want us cramped up in these shoe boxes. Um, I mean, don't don't make children. Uh, don't build a farm. Be completely uh, reliant on the government to provide for you. Oh, but we have these comfortable pleasures of the city, so you can stay in the city and enjoy these kind of.
For everyone watching, well, you can only watch this because it's not podcast. It's only on my YouTube channel, but this was an actual ad that I saw. Thinking big by thinking small, how significantly downsizing our homes into tiny homes with all but the bare essentials is the key to building a better, more diverse, and less racist society. And there you go. World Economic Forum tweet.
Isn't that convenient?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, why go to the hustle of children? I mean, just buy a tiny home, tiny house, and don't make children. I mean, this is what they want.
Yes.
It's all connected. I don't write these threads out of random because it's all connected with each other. It all comes down to good people versus these evil oligarchs,
Yes.
and we
And
have a. Oh, go ahead.
depopulation, it always comes back to that word too, I've noticed. That's always on the table when you're talking about these, or when these people, I mean, they'll let you know it. It's always in the backdrop of what they're saying and what they're doing. Depopulation over and over and over again through the decades.
Yeah, but who decides who gets to live and who
They'll
doesn't?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, the people that promote the depopulation agenda, notice they never kill each other. But they're the elites and they get to choose and decide. I got to respect your time and I want to get you out of here. But before we do, you and I off air talked about that you're a catechumen, as am I. How did you make your way to orthodoxy?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, I was baptized Roman Catholic, and I was never, well, taught the faith. And so naturally, I became an atheist, hardcore atheist. I fell for the new atheist trap.
Same here.
Um,
Same here.
there you go. And well, after a while, you mature and think for yourself. And I saw that, especially with what triggers me is the sexual perversion of our day.
Hmm.
That truly triggered me into searching for truth. And it's like think Werner Heisenberg said that when you take the first sip, you're an atheist of science, but when you drink the whole cup, at the end of the bottom, at the bottom you see God, and that
Mm,
actually happened. So, and especially the Orthodox Church, believe they have the most coherent theology. Well, they have the coherent theology. Everything makes sense in their worldview. And also, when you see their physiognomy, I mean, this is a personal observation, but uh, they are really serious in their faith. And I think, yeah, that convinced me to become a catechumen. And what else was very convincing was the transcendental argument
hmm
about you can't explain time and space, morality, all these things without God. And the Orthodox Church has this fleshed out, unlike other religions and churches. So, um, but most important is you have to open your heart for it.
Yes. Yes, indeed. How did you was it just online searching around and studying, you kind of stumbled upon orthodoxy? Or was there books or podcasts or anything that led you that way?
I've been watching a lot of Jay Dyer.
There you go. I thought that might be the case.
Yeah, his debates are epic.
Yes, they are. I had him on, a couple of about now it's been about 2 months. He's brilliant.
Oh yeah, oh that's cool, man.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, he's,
It's on your channel.
it is, yep.
I'm gonna check it out.
Awesome. I think it might be the most viewed video I've got. It's in the he, he when he comes on someone's show, he also puts it on his feed, so that certainly helps. But that's great. So is it Jay Dyer discovering him and watching him is kind of what pulls you into orthodoxy as far as like learning more stuff about it?
Yeah, yeah,
Excellent.
absolutely. Um, it's mostly the rational argument, um, because I would not recommend it if your heart is not open to it.
Same.
Because
Yes.
right, nothing's come is gonna come in. So uh, you have to start with your own emotional baggage first, because yeah, it's fruitless if you go into that kind of stuff. It's not gonna happen. You're gonna be orthodox that way.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well put. Okay. I'll get you out of here. Plug away, website, Twitter, anything you'd like for people to find you, to find your content. Let them know.
Yeah, you can find me on twitter.com as Ancestral Vril, and sign up for my newsletter. It's the uncensored newsletter on ancestralvril.com.
Excellent. I did that. There's nothing out yet. Is that right? Or because I wanted to make sure I wasn't like missing something because I registered for it and then tried to read stuff, but there was still nothing. Is that correct?
Yeah, what you can do is all my posts are kept private for members,
Okay.
for certain privacy reasons, and also to remain exclusive for our members. Because yeah, certain things you just can't say in public.
Oh,
That's
that's
why,
for sure. Yeah.
right? So this is why I'm gonna keep it that way. But when you go to the landing page and scroll down, you can see my old posts. So I'm gonna keep everything there, and at the same time, email my newsletter.
Excellent. Okay, cool, man. Well, stay right where you're at. I'm going to disconnect from the live aspect of this, and thanks for being here.
Thank you.